Hi, my name is Abhimanyu. I'm a serial quitter. Last 6 years, I've quit more times than I've had rasam chawal. But I don't quit just for quitting. Every single time that I've quit, I've been traveling around this country. There is that time, that urge comes up, and nothing else can stop. Those are the times when I've quit. I've traveled pretty much every corner of this country, one of which I met Tushar as well. During those travels, you come across hundreds, thousands of people. Every single person has his own story. The 8 people here today, they have their own stories. What I want to share with you are those stories. Over the last 6 years, from being a serial quitter, I've turned into a serial storyteller. Today, I'm going to play that role out today. These stories come from all over the country. The dots that you see are the specific ones that I'm going to discuss with you. Stories talk about all sorts of things. They talk about courage, they'll talk about passion, they'll talk about strength, talk about madness. They'll talk about impossible odds and how people are still working against them. Some of the people sitting in this room are very examples of some of these stories. However, my stories are going to talk about people that you'll probably never hear about. Let's talk about the first one. It's called Dilemma. The story comes from Arunachal Pradesh. There's a little district up there called Tawang. Tawang lies at the center of controversy as a border dispute between India and China. It's a beautiful state. To get to Tawang, you need to go through a 13-hour road journey from Assam. That's the only way to get there unless you decide to fly. Tawang is populated by some of the gentlest people you'll find in India. They're called the Monpas. It's a tribe, very nice people. Back in 2010, I was part of an NGO. We were working in Tawang, helping farmers increase their income, use their farmlands for better things. Now, Tawang is full of lakes. There are hundreds of thousands of lakes. And so we were helping them grow fish. For 4 months, with the cooperation of the government, we did everything right. It was one of the best projects that we have implemented. 4 months later, we had giant big fish in every single pond. Everything came to a screeching halt the moment that fish appeared. We realized the Monpas, who are Buddhists, do not kill animals. We had 50 ponds full of fish and not one person willing to take them out of the water. The fish that you see in this picture was 5 seconds later dropped back into the water and it went away. We are sitting in a mountain town, everybody eating fish. There's a lot of Bengalis who visit Tawang, by the way. Everybody eating fish. Not one of them comes from these ponds. They come from a 13-hour journey up. That's the beauty of NGO work. The next story comes, it's called Joy of Life. Comes from plains of Punjab, the land of Shah Rukh Khan singing in mustard fields, the land of parathas with ghee, land of bravado, land of bhangra. And you would think that all of that hard work, all of that extra food, all of that fat that people are eating, and by the time you get to 60, by the time the arthritis sets in, you will have a big fat tummy, and that's pretty much the end of it. And you would be wrong. If you have seen today's newspaper, today's Times of India, you will see a nice little picture in one of the middle pages about a place called Kila Raipur. Kila Raipur is a place that hosts what is called the Rural Olympics. Now, the Rural Olympics are essentially, there's a bunch of things. There's a bullock cart race. There's all sorts of things. But the highlight, the truly incredible part of Rural Olympics is anybody can participate voluntarily as long as you think that you are able-bodied. These 4 gentlemen, they thought they were able-bodied. Every single person in that picture that you see is above 80 years old. I can guarantee you this because I have seen you. These 4 people will defeat, probably with the exception of you, sir, in any race. You will see 95-year-old people picking up weights more than themselves. This is a place beyond belief. The next story is called Speechless. This is one of my personal experiences. Took place in Bombay, where I was working for about 3 years. Happened with a cabbie. My grandfather had throat cancer. He was a tobacco addict. So am I. He was being treated for cancer at the Tata Memorial Hospital. And I went there for a visit. I didn't have change. I had a 1,000 rupee note. I had to give him 90 bucks. We did the most obvious thing that most of us do is go buy something from the next shop. Being a smoker myself, the most obvious thing to buy was a pack of cigarettes. I walk back to this cabbie. He stands there and says, "You're coming to Tata Memorial Hospital. Somebody of your family is sick with cancer, and you know that. You're still buying a pack of cigarettes." He says, "I don't want your money. Don't do this again." And he walks off. I'm standing there in the middle of the road, crowded Mumbai, holding a 100 rupee note. The guy is walking away. I still smoke, by the way. The next story is called Passion. Comes from a little place called Rewari. Rewari is about an hour's drive from Delhi. It's a dusty little city, typical North Indian, very arid, very inhospitable sort of place. And it has a railway station. One of the most unremarkable railway stations you'll ever see. Very mismanaged, very dirty. But next to the railway station, there's a little railway yard. And if you enter the doors of that railway yard, you wouldn't believe that you're looking at Indian Railways. The Rewari Steam Loco Shed is one of its kind in India. It holds together 6 of the last remaining steam engines of this country. But that's not the interesting part. This is part of the tourist guidebooks. The interesting part is this man who's walking next to that steam engine. This man is a poet. And trust me, every single time you'll go, he will recite it out to you. This man is a poet assisted by a bunch of some of the most passionate, some of the most nutcase steam engine enthusiasts of this country. The bunch of 8 people running this entire place. They're facing impossible odds today because nobody, apart from them, can actually manage a steam engine. Despite all of that, these are all beyond retirement age people. Despite all of that, these people have been managing 6 of their steam engines. Today, you can actually ride a steam engine from Delhi to Rewari and back. It's one of the biggest things. And meeting one of these people, you start realizing that government bureaucracy, all of these problems, funding, this, that, these are all problems and all nice. But if you have the will, you can make it past anything. The next story is called Against All Odds. Comes in from Himachal Pradesh. In Himachal, there's a very popular tourist destination called Solang. It's a popular skiing place. And like any other skiing place, infested with people. So much so that, finding snow is a little difficult. And within that situation, it would be very easy to go in and say, crowded, messy, if you'd like peace and quiet, you would walk away. If you look just a little bit deeper, you will see that there are heroes hidden within themselves. We found these 3 girls. They were like hundreds of other girls which were around there. And looking at them, you won't believe this. These 3 are among the best skiers in this country. They are the champions of their age group. And within that, you see these 3 girls who are coming from local villages, very little resources. But when it comes to skiing, these 3 girls have said, that's it. They have participated at the national level, they've won championships. And that's the beauty of it. Little girls from little villages who have no access to any resources have made it despite all of that. Next story is called Futility of War. It comes in from Sikkim. In Sikkim, there's the Nathula Pass, which is the Indo-Chinese border post. If you go beyond Nathula Pass, on a secluded road, there's a memorial. It's called the Watershed Memorial, erected in memory of deceased soldiers. The thing that will affect you about this pass, about the memorial, is those 6 plaques where you see the tank's cannon facing. Those plaques tell you the story of why this memorial was created. After the 62 war with China, there was a lot of border skirmishes. There was always tensions running high on the border. Sometime in 77, if I'm correct about the date, the Chinese laid claim on a stone. It's a piece of stone. It's lying on the border. The Chinese said, this is ours. Our soldiers said, I'm so sorry, this is ours. That little skirmish between two soldiers escalated 3 days later into full-scale firings. Both sides lost 3 soldiers each. It's been 30 years today. We've lost 3 soldiers. Nobody has any idea about where that boulder is. That's war for us. Next story is called Dreams. It happens at Khardungla, which is the highest motorable road in the world. I'm a rider. It's probably the biggest dream come true for me. People come in from across the world just to ride on this top of this road. And while I was there, I came across a little curious sighting. We had a bunch of Europeans who were along with their bikes running around there. Very common sight. But what happened next is that they picked up this one guy. I couldn't figure out why. We ended up speaking. Exactly what's the story? Turns out the guy who you see on the top of the shoulders of everybody is 83 years old. He's dying. He's dying and he doesn't have too much time left. And the one wish that he has before he dies is to go and ride on top of the world. That's what he has done. The next story is called Edge of the World. Not much of a story, really. It's a place. It's a place like absolutely no other in this world. Let me take you closer there. And a little more closer there. You've all heard of Ram Setu, the bridge between India and Sri Lanka. There was a time, you see a big blue gap, which is the ocean today, but there was a time that the whole thing was actually connected. We used to have a train station right at the edge of land. It was beautiful. You know, it was a marvel. 1964, we started seeing what nature can do to us. There was a cyclone, sizes of which we have rarely seen. The entire area that you see on the frame was land. It's all gone. Everything is gone. There was a train with 115 people which sank. We lost about 2,000 people in that cyclone. The point I'm trying to make there, this was the train station there. 1964 onwards, this has been a ghost house. This place has officially been declared by the government of India as a ghost place. You're not allowed to live there. So all you find is a few villagers who still stick it out. The point I'm trying to make is, end of the day, you see nature claiming its place back. We've seen this so many times. Dhanushkodi is the biggest example of them all. The next story is called Silence. It comes in from Kashmir, from your place, sir. And it's a very curious interaction that I had, which I wanted to relate. I was climbing up the slopes of Gulmarg. If you've been to Gulmarg, there's a very high ski lift there. And I went there in between seasons, so very few tourists. And so there was this horseman who started chasing me because he wanted me to become a customer. There was nobody else, so I had to be. So we struck up a conversation, and inevitably the topic revolved around what's his view on Kashmir, which side of the thing that he falls on. I was very curious what he told me. He never said India is good, Pakistan is bad, we want independence, nothing of the sort, none of the rhetoric that you hear. He said, India will never let us go. And that's it. That's what he said. India will never let us go. And it's interesting, the moment you think about it, a state in your own country, which we all very strongly believe is part of us and we'll never let it go. A person in that state is saying, only reason I'm standing here is because you will never let me go. He's not complaining, by the way. He's just stating a fact. And I thought, the way we have always talked about the Kashmir rhetoric, despite 60, 70 years of working there, we still probably don't understand what the hell is going on in that place. I'm sure Dr. Ramesh will be able to throw a lot more light on this issue. The next story is called Art in Motion. Takes place 40 kilometers north of Chennai. 40 kilometers north of Chennai is a factory. It's a big, bad, dirty mechanical factory where you get Royal Enfield motorcycles made. It's probably, unless you're motorcycle lovers, you will last place you will look for art. But if you go beyond the production lines, every single machine that is produced by Royal Enfield for the last 20 years has passed through a single desk where one person sits with one brush and makes the tank. Every single bullet that has ever been made in this country has a nice little golden strip somewhere on the body of the vehicle. Every single one of those strips has been hand painted by one person. In an era where standardization and modernization is everything, this is just beautiful. The best part is, his father was the one who started it 20 years ago. Today, he is the one who's running it. The next story is called Homeless Builders, comes from all over the mountain states. If you have traveled there, you will see them in action. They're called the Border Roads Organization, the BRO. And the part that you will end up missing is you would see the people who are actually running the BRO, the people who are actually breaking the things. And these are all workers who are coming in from UP and Bihar, homeless people. These people literally have no homes. When they move with everything, which means families, appliances, everything. The children of these road workers are the ones who are most affected. They have absolutely no emotional support. Friends keep moving on. They have no education. They don't have access. You don't have a place. How do you go to a school? It's one of the most heartbreaking things if you'll ever get deep inside it. Next story is called Loneliness. Comes from a BSF camp in Rann of Kutch. At the edge of Rann of Kutch, there is a border post of BSF. On top of that, there is a watchtower. If you stand inside the watchtower and look at the walls, you'll see names scribbled. Names of soldiers who have been across time, across battalions, across units, all of them tied together by one feeling of being far, far away from home. Next story is called Adventure is in Everyone. We all keep looking for heroes. I found my hero in probably the last place I would ever look at. My brother is as staid, as homely, as well-mannered as a person can ever be. And yet when we had a plan of riding a scooter, a 10-year-old scooter, by the way, on the worst terrain of the planet, he was there. And he did it. Next story is called Change. We used to have Behrupias, people who used to put makeup up and run around and scare kids. We all had that time with us. Once we passed out of school, that entire bit was lost. We never saw them again. So when we visited Khajuraho, and we saw all of them running around on the streets of Khajuraho, like it was every day, it was one of the most heartening things we had to see. Final story is called Hope. Takes place where I live today, which is in New Delhi. Happened on 16th of August last year. Part of the story which Mr. Jha just narrated. That was when Anna Hazare took action. What Anna Hazare did was the most defining moment of our generation. We have not seen JP, we haven't seen the emergency, at least I haven't. And from the day I have been born, this has been the defining moment of what has happened. And I agree with everything that you have just said, sir. That one event gave us belief that we can actually change things. And I think the manifestation of that has happened in what we have seen in the Delhi rape case. The net lesson of all of these stories is we have 1 billion people in India and we have 1 billion stories coming out of there. Let's not look at India as one idea. It is not. Let's not try to create one unified picture. It is not. It is 1 billion different stories, and let's just look at it like that. Thank you very much.